pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, 3 dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
You are listening to WMNHLP, Manchester's radio, broadcasting at 95.3 megahertz frequency modulation from the top of 1000 Elm Street. Our studios are located at 1045 Elm Street and licensed to Manchester Public Television Service in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA. Contact us by email at WMNH953@gmail.com or through our website at WMNHradio.org.
Bottle of Coke, bottle of Sprite. You both have such a large appetite. 25 years and 3 affairs, both of them lost all their hair. Betty and Joe, Jody and Beck, you haven't heard the worst of it. He crashed his car coming home from a bar. He took things just a little too far. Seeing that woman on the side, Betty went off on him like a riptide. She burnt down the car, she burnt down the house. She made him feel as small as a mouse. He came back looking for love. It may be messed up, but it fits like a glove. Bottle of Coke, bottle of Sprite. You both have such a large appetite. 25 years and 3 affairs, both of them lost all their hair. Betty and Joe, Joey and Beck, you haven't heard the worst of it. Betty went out with a few friends. She shacked up with a guy named Ben. This should have been the means to the end. She came home with a tear in her eye. Lucky that Joe's a forgiving guy. "25 years and 3 affairs, both of them lost all their hair. Betty and Joe went on a dream cruise, little bit of love and a whole lot of booze. They both cheated on the 3rd night, got back to the room and there was no fight.
And welcome back. We're joined now by the twice indicted Republican frontrunner, fresh off his latest arrest, Donald Jessica Trump. Thanks so much for posting bail to be here.
Thank you.
Mr. Former Fake President Girl, hundreds of thousands of millions of classified documents were found at Mar-a-Lago, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, in the closet where you store your wigs. Sir, what were you doing with all those boxes?
Ready?
Ugh, I'm bored.
There was nothing to declassify. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories.
At one point, you apparently held up a highly sensitive military plan of attack document in front of a room full of randos.
There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else, and it may have been held up or may not, but that was not a document. I didn't have a document per se.
Well, sweetie, I don't mean to grab you by the per se, but according to the indictment, there is a recording of you saying, and I quote, "Look at me, I have classified documents. These are definitely not declassified. Look at me, I'm a big boy, daddy, please love me."
I have every right to have those boxes. This is purely a Presidential Records Act.
This is not a criminal thing.
Picture his ass in a bright orange jumpsuit, banging on bars with a rusty tin cup. Thought he'd be cute and just take what he wanted, but looks like it's time to pay up.
You know, Clinton took documents. Clinton took tapes in his socks.
Damning indictments for federal crimes piling up on his desk. Yapping fleas about how Hillary handled her docs. And meanwhile, Donald's in the jar with boxes.
Not that I know of.
Donald's in the jar with boxes.
There was no document.
Donald's in the jar with boxes.
It's a political witch hunt.
Down in Palm Beach at the home of this klepto, hidden there under his padded commode, just within reach of his diapers and Pepto, are national secrets and nuclear code. This morning the nuclear sits on the cans of classified records, like their own golf magazines, proudly protesting there's nothing that he has to hide. But there goes Donald in the jar with boxes. Come on out, boo. Donald in the jar with boxes.
This is not a criminal thing.
Donald in the jar with boxes. You okay in there, girl? Dudes in blue jackets appear at his door, ready to take him away.
These are thugs.
Till all these hacks back him up. What the hell's going on? What's going on? Donald in the jar with boxes. That's a lot of boxes. Donald in the jar with boxes. You're in danger, girl. Donald in the jar with boxes. Lock him up like now.
This is not a criminal thing.
Picture his ass in a bright orange jumpsuit, rock to the justice he tried to obstruct. Thought he'd be cute and just take what he wanted, and now he's totally screwed.
It's a political witch hunt.
In your mind, did the COVID vaccine work?
I really don't want to talk about it because as a Republican, it's not a great thing to talk about because for some reason, it's just not.
For some reason?
Yeah, for some reason.
Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels. It is war on Trump. It is war on the Republican Party. Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels. I did everything right and they indicted me.
First of all, I won in 2020 by a lot. Let's get that straight.
You lost the 2020 election.
They were counting ballots, not the authenticity of the ballots. When you're 40 points up,
Polls changed. They changed in 2016 to your favor. What did you learn from your first term?
I would like to be less combative, but I find the press is extremely dishonest.
I will tell you that I say it to all of the fake news because there's a lot of
If I'm not combative, I don't know. I don't think you could win. We're run by a fool. We're run by a man that doesn't have a clue.
The media said Joe Biden's president.
We're run by a fool. We're run by a man that doesn't have a clue.
God save the Queen, man. Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels. It is war on Trump. It is war on the Republican Party. Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels. I did everything right and they indicted me.
The only way NARA could ever get this back would be please, 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 please could we have it back? I have every right to have those boxes. This is purely a Presidential Records Act. Some people would say that's stupid.
Why not just hand them over then?
Because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't think it's fair. I don't want to hand that over to NARA yet. And I was very busy, as you've sort of seen.
Yeah. This This is what you said in 2016 about handling this.
In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information. No one will be above the law.
Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels. It is war on Trump. It is war on the Republican Party. Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels. I did everything right and they indicted me.
Welcome, everybody. Here we go. It is that time again. Matt Connarton Unleashed. And we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. A little humid out there, but it is glorious. It's a bright, sunny day. Although now that I'm looking, there's some dark clouds moving in, but maybe we'll get a quick storm. Who knows? Who knows? But yes, we are, of course, at the studios of WMNH 95.3 and, of course, on Comcast 97 if you are in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today is Friday, June 23, 2023. Friday is my favorite day of the week here at WMNH. It's my long day because I get to do double duty, and I love it. Here, of course, until 6 p.m. for this show. And then I'm back tonight from 8 to 11 p.m. for Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. I, of course, am one of Paul's co-hosts on that show, along with DJ Steve and Mike from Queen City Cabinetry. And, of course, Queen City Cabinetry being one of our great sponsors here at WMNH, but also Mike joins us from Queen City Cabinetry Friday nights for Retro Spectrum Radio. So we have a great time. And this week's show I'm excited about. It is part 2 of original demos of popular songs, where Paul will be featuring the original demo versions of some of the songs that you've probably heard many times over the course of your lifetime. But have you heard the original version that was demo recording in its infancy, if you will, in its development? And so tonight is part 2 of that. I really loved last week's show. I was looking forward to it, and it did not let me down. Again, if you were listening to last week's show, whether live or if you happen to catch the replay or listen to the podcast, I think everybody in the room was in agreement about the original demo version of Girls on Film by Duran Duran. Just absolutely stupendous. Does anyone say that word anymore? I can't remember the last time I actually heard somebody use the word stupendous, but I will use it here. I think it is an apt superlative that I have presented. It's just so good. The demo version, it had a lot of guitar in it, which of course did not make it into the final mix in the studio. But yeah, just really cool. So I'm looking forward to tonight. The other really interesting thing that just kind of stands out in my mind about last week's show was Paul also played, and of course this I had already heard as a Kiss fan, the original demo version of the Kiss song "God of Thunder." And on the demo version, because it was actually written by Paul Stanley, even though Gene Simmons is the one who sings the song, and they still do that in their live set today. But on the original demo version, it's faster, and it's Paul Stanley singing it, and it's actually kind of funny. It might not be funny if you don't know the original, or if you're just not a Kiss fan, but if you know the original and then you hear the Paul Stanley demo, it's pretty funny. we were having a good hearty chuckle over it. Anyway, I have no idea what the demos are that Paul plans to feature tonight, but I very, very much look forward to tonight's program. And I assume Granite State of Mind is still going to be running immediately after this show. I did hear on the replay of the morning show, of course, the morning show with Peter White, which is weekdays from 7 to 9 a.m. here at WMNH, with a replay from 2 to 4 p.m. right before this program. I heard Peter mentioning that Granite State of Mind is actually moving to Thursdays at 9 p.m. It's been at Well, it's been Fridays at 6 p.m. for as long as I've been here, but apparently it is moving to a new day and time. Check your local listings. But I assume there's still an episode airing tonight immediately after this program. So, of course, during the warm half of the year, Rob Azevedo and Paulie Stone, they record all the shows out at Pembroke City Limits, and then they do a great job. I assume they'll be once the weather gets cold again, they'll be back in the studio. But now on Thursday nights apparently. So congratulations to them. And let's see what else is going on. Oh, just a couple other quick things too. Our amazing sponsor, the Hop Knot, right across the street at 1000 Elm Street. They have an event going on tonight. And I do enjoy saying this. I think it's fun. Big Gay Bingo happening tonight at the Hop Knot, beginning at 9 p.m., hosted by Onyx Reigns and Glam Chowda. So it says here on social media, it's like bingo, but gay. So, and there is an explanation here. And by the way, I hope Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida is not around here campaigning right now. He'll be very upset at this. In Florida, they think that if you just pretend that there aren't people who are different than you, then they don't actually exist. I think that's the theory. But anyway, or at least in the schools. But here's an explanation. What is Big Gay Bingo? It's just like bingo, but instead of numbers and letters, the cards will be filled with lingo and slang from LGBTQ plus culture. The lighthearted game is meant to be fun as well as educational. We're going to be... we'll get going at 9 p.m., so get there early to grab a good seat. The game is free to play, but we'd love it if you made a $5 donation to MVAPNH, a local organization that helps people living with HIV/AIDS maintain a high quality of life through education, support, and empowerment. And so that's a great cause. We did talk about that a little bit on the show yesterday, too. We actually, with our friend EZG, he called in to do his entertainment report. But we had a surprisingly, I shouldn't say surprisingly, but sometimes EZG he'll surprise you. We had I thought a pretty good discussion, not an extensive one, but we did discuss how HIV and AIDS is still very much with us. You don't hear about it nearly as much, so people forget, because we do live in an era where, thanks to medical technology, you can be HIV positive and still live a full lifespan if you get on the right medications and so forth. Of course, you have to be able to get on the right medications, which kind of ties into another thing that we often discuss on the show, which is access to healthcare and the importance of that and being able to get the healthcare that you need, and how people fall through the cracks in America, which is unacceptable. But the medications are there to help you if you are HIV positive, but that doesn't mean you can necessarily get access to them. And, and that's life or death. So this is very important. So it's for a great cause. Big Gay Bingo tonight at the Hop Knot. And of course, it's Pride Month. June is Pride Month. So very appropriate for that as well. And they do a lot of great things at the Hop Knot. So very proud to have them as a sponsor. Also going on tonight, by the way, DJ Reckless is going to be in the main room at Soho DJing. I think he said that starts at 9 p.m. or somewhere between 9 and 10 p.m. And speaking of Rob Azevedo, he's got a band. I forget who it is, but he's got somebody performing tonight. So I assume they're going to be recording Granite State of Mind tonight at Pembroke City Limits. So if you're up that way, you can stop in there, check it out. So lots going on. Always lots going on. And I'm sure there's many more things I could mention. Oh, actually, here's another thing I could mention. Trudy from the Hop Knot will be here with us on Monday. She hasn't been on the show in a long time. So that will be very, very cool. We've got a lot to get to today. I don't have any guests booked, but we have a lot to get to. There's a lot that I want to cover today, so that kind of works out. Jenny's been doing a great job with the booking, so most days we have guests. We have guests almost every day, but it is nice to have a day here and there where we don't have any guests, and I can kind of get caught up with all of these news stories that have been sort of piling up during the week that we just haven't had time to get to. But if you'd like to join us, 603-250-6007. The studio line is open, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, Matt@mattconnerton.com. And, of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat, and we will say hello to everybody in there in just a moment. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007. But I do want to take a moment and say hello to everybody in the Facebook live chat. Mike from Queen City Cabinetry is in the chat room and says, happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday, Mike. Scott Robinson in the chat room says, good afternoon, my fellow Connartonites. I always thought that the state rep-elect was a little hinky. After today, I guess we were all right about the person. Yes, and Scott is speaking in code because the particular individual who is in yet again for the, I don't know how many times it is now, they are in legal trouble, and the legal jeopardy in this particular instance is on a scale that I don't think we'll be hearing from that person for a while. But it's someone we don't, for reasons that, if you're a longtime listener, you might have an idea, but we don't talk about this individual on the show anymore, so I'm not going to mention their name. But if you are local in the area and you pay attention, you can go to WMUR.com, for example, Channel 9, look at the news, and you'll immediately see reference to what I'm referring to. And the particular individual and a partner of that individual who are in terrible trouble for, they are alleged to have done something really disgusting and disturbing. And I will leave that at that. We won't go any further with it, but yeah, that's what's going on. I had last night when the news broke, when Tony Shanella broke the news on Patch in Nashua, I had multiple people send me the story. Like, Matt, look who's in trouble. Pat Mills from The Bonfire. We'll give The Bonfire a plug. Great place. Pat was the first one on Facebook to message me a link to the story. And then several other people did as well. And it's like, yep. Yeah. I don't want to say exactly what I'm thinking, but we'll just say, let's just say I had a feeling we'd see this person's name in the news again, because it always happens. And every time it's something a little bit worse than the previous time. But anyway, best of luck. Isaac Banks joins us in the Facebook live chat, of course, all the way from Greensboro, North Carolina. Isaac says, good afternoon, #Matt. Today is my mom's birthday. Her name is Shalitha Banks from Greensboro, North Carolina. She's age 70. Good afternoon, #Jenny. Well, I saw on a coffee mug once that life begins at 70. I'm a little skeptical about that, but, it's good to be positive and optimistic. Scott Robinson said in the chat room, if you don't know what I'm referring to, look up WMUR about the child care establishment. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Isaac Banks says, N Saturn will be watching the Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C on Facebook Live. Excellent. We do love to see N Saturn in there. Eric Street joins us in the chat room and says, happy Friday. Just saw that Mr. Krabs article. Yes. Just incredible, huh? Isn't it? All right. Let me give the studio line again, and then I want to get into something. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. Something I've been wanting to get to on the program, and again, it's just it's been busy, but this ongoing story involving the Supreme Court. But in getting into this about the Supreme Court, and I have kind of an unpopular, I don't want to say an unpopular opinion necessarily. Oh, hello to Tony Petrello, who's in the Facebook live chat and says, good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon, Tony. Nice to see you in there. Oh, and also Texas Mike just joined us as well and says, good afternoon. Yeehaw, Texas Mike. I want to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court, but this doesn't relate, I should say, directly to, I know right now there's a lot of talk in the media about it's 1 year. Hard to believe it's been a year. It's the 1 year anniversary of the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision. But that's not what I want to focus on with this. But the thing that I'm going to say that's a little unpopular is, and I want to get, I'd really like to get some listener feedback on this because it's just something you don't hear. I have a perspective on this that you just don't really hear in mainstream media, but I have a suspicion. I can't be the only one who has had this particular thought regarding the Supreme Court, even though I don't hear anyone else actually saying what I'm going to say in a moment. But just to kind of get us going in the right direction, and then we'll get into it. There's a story, usnews.com has a story up. Pressure mounts on Chief Justice John Roberts to adopt a code of ethics. A key senator with oversight of the Judiciary Committee is calling for ethics reform after yet another bombshell report questioning the justice's ability to self-police. So if you haven't been following this, what this is about is, and it really started, must have been a couple of months ago now. Apparently, Justice Clarence Thomas, he goes on trips and eats at fancy restaurants and so forth on the dime of Harlan Crow, who is a billionaire Republican donor and so forth, and wasn't declaring that that he was accepting these lavish trips and so forth. And then another story just broke that Samuel Alito had been doing something similar, and the Supreme Court is really pretty autonomous in terms of ethics. Now, the other two branches of government, because obviously we have three branches, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Executive, of course, being the presidency, and the legislative being Congress, and the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. But of the three branches, the Supreme Court enjoys tremendous autonomy. The other two branches don't really make rules for the Supreme Court. They confirm justices who then get a lifetime appointment, who cannot be removed unless impeached. I think there is one example in American history of a Supreme Court justice being impeached. I think I'm a little sketchy on the details of that, and not recently, of course, not in any of our lifetimes, long time ago. But I'm not sure if they were actually impeached or if they were going to be impeached and they resigned. I forget now. I should look that up. But so the Supreme Court enjoys tremendous autonomy, and they have to kind of self-police, or in theory, they would have to self-police if they were forced to, which they're not. So they're really kind of on their own. So, if someone wants to, say you're a Supreme Court justice and you want to accept lavish trips and other kinds of social events, if you want to accept those gifts or those opportunities, hello to JFed in the chat room. If you want to accept that, even if you might be presiding over a case that in some ways might have an effect over the billionaire who's spending all this money on you, or maybe you might even, as I believe is in the case of Justice Samuel Alito, and we might look at that a little bit more closely, because he sort of did a prebuttal to this ProPublica breaking the story. It's actually pretty strange, but I guess he kind of panicked and wanted to get out ahead of it. But I think in his case, he had to rule on a case that directly involved, or at least affected in some direct manner, the billionaire who was paying for him to go wherever, go on trips, go on vacations on a private jet, whatever it is. Apparently, if you go back to Antonin Scalia, who died while I think on a hunting trip or a golf expedition or something. He died while on vacation, but with one of these billionaires who spends money to, let's be honest. Why, if you're a billionaire and you're going to spend a lot of money on somebody like a Supreme Court justice or any other type of politician, and by the way, yes, I said that intentionally, any other type of politician. See, you're not supposed to say that. There's certain things that in polite company, and in this case, when I say polite company, what I really mean is when you're having a political discussion, you're not supposed to refer to Supreme Court justices as politicians. They're Supreme Court justices. They're above politics, right? Well, I have something to say about that. And it's something that, people don't like to hear. But we'll come back to that. But if you're spending money on a politician, whether they be a president or a senator or a congressman or a Supreme Court justice, you're not doing it because you want to be kind and generous. You're not doing it because you want to have a friend who wears a black robe and you think that'll be really cool. You're doing it because you want something. Oh, hello to Melanie La Liberty from the great state of Vermont who joins us in the chat. You're doing it because you want something. It's a business expense. It is the cost of doing business. And it appeals to, well, it works for a couple of reasons. One is, I almost hate to say it because it's such an old and somewhat tired cliche, but the reason it withstands the test of time and is repeated so much is because it is so incredibly true, is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And but the other thing is, so regardless of what someone's position is, it's easy to influence people by buying them stuff. But then again, it's easy to do that anyway, right? Even if you're not a billionaire, and even if you're not dealing with a Supreme Court justice or a senator or a congressman or a president or a presidential candidate or whomever, if you spend money on people, they tend to like you more. If you do favors for people, they tend to like you more, and that's a way that you can gain influence with people. There's a book, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's human nature. It doesn't only apply to the elite spending money on, well, the elite. While this is all going on, what I see and I hear in the media, there's a lot of pearl clutching about, well, how could this be? Something has to be done because there's no code of ethics. There isn't. There are some rules, apparently, about what these justices are supposed to disclose in terms of what is spent on them. There's rules, but apparently there's no laws. There's guidelines, but nothing firm, and they can be selective about it. Like I think in the case of Clarence Thomas, I was reading about, there was something he disclosed, because someone had bought him a gift or something. And he felt that, he thought it would look bad if he didn't disclose it. So he disclosed it, but then, and it was something, there was only a few $1,000s, but he felt that, it would be, the appropriate thing would be to disclose that. But then when Harlan Crow comes along and spends exponentially more money on vacations and rides on a private jet for Justice Thomas, apparently he felt no qualms or compunctions about that. I guess he must have thought, well, he's not trying to get something from me. He's just being a nice guy. But because we know that absolute power corrupts absolutely, I don't know how it would even be possible to be in that position and not be for sale to some extent, right? Scott Robinson in the chat says, if anyone wants to give me some cash, my vote can be bought. Now, I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I'm saying here when I say, well, if you're in that position and you have so much autonomy, because again, the judicial branch has much more autonomy than the legislative or the executive branches. I mean, those branches have, they have laws and, there are ethics laws and campaign finance laws. And there's, of course, a million ways around all of these laws, and they are circumvented all the time. But there are laws in place. But when you're a Supreme Court justice, you really, you're on your own. You get to decide for yourself what you think is worth disclosing, or, if you want to just be willfully obtuse and say, I don't know why this billionaire is spending all this money on me. I guess he's just a nice guy, wants me to be his friend. I'm flattered. You know, you can do that. You have the freedom to do that. There's no one to tell you you can't. Now, the thing that, again, I'm not excusing any of that, even though I do believe there is a high degree of just basic human nature involved here. I don't want anyone to misunderstand. But the thing that I would say is, and this is the part that's kind of unpopular, that you don't hear people in mainstream media say, the reason, part of why people are so upset and so shocked by all of this is because we are taught in this country from a young age, when you first learn, when you're a kid, think about when you were a kid, and you first are learning about civics in school, and you're learning about the 3 branches of government, and you learn about the Supreme Court. And we are taught that the Supreme Court, these are lifetime appointments, and the Supreme Court is above it all. Not above the law, certainly. I mean, they rule on the law, but they're above politics. You know, now the legislative branch and the executive branch, those are elected. Those people are elected. They are accountable directly to the voters. But the Supreme Court, oh my goodness, the judicial branch, the Supreme Court, it's on this pedestal. And they are just above it all. And that's why they're lifetime appointments. And they go and they do their job. And you have to trust them. That's why there's no code of ethics. They don't need a code of ethics. They're above it all. They're beyond politics, after all. It's not like you can bribe them, right? You can bribe a senator. You can bribe a candidate. How would you bribe a Supreme Court justice? They're already in the job, and it's a lifetime appointment. They don't need ethics. They're above it all. We're sort of taught that they're on that pedestal, that they're in their own sort of category, and they are exalted. And I have to tell you, and this is the part that's going to be a little unpopular, but for whatever reason, and I'd be curious to get some feedback if there's anyone else who feels the way that I do. Because the narrative in the media right now is, well, Chief Justice John Roberts has to do something because apparently there are some problems, but we're all so shocked that there's problems because who would ever expect this kind of thing? Who would ever expect Harlan Crow spending all this money on Clarence Thomas? You would never even expect that, right? It's the Supreme Court. Listen, this whole idea of the Supreme Court being on that pedestal, I can honestly say, and I became interested in politics at an unhealthily young age. I have not, for a day in my life, ever bought into that idea. I have always looked at the 3 branches of government. You know, we have 3 co-equal branches as we're taught, right? I've always looked at all 3 of those branches as being political. Not, well, you have 2 branches that are highly political because you have people elected to those branches, and then you have this other branch that is in its own world, right? And it's on a pedestal. I've never bought into that. I have always looked at the 3 branches as being absolutely political, and I've always looked at Supreme Court justices as being politicians, just like senators, just like congressmen, just like the president, just like the vice president, just like the mayor in your city, just like anybody, just like your local sheriff who you elect. Some places the sheriff is appointed, some elected. Pick any example you want. I have never, for a day in my life, viewed Supreme Court justices as any different. I get it. They're not elected. They're appointed, but they're still voted on by a committee. And they don't have to get reelected because they're not elected to begin with. It's a lifetime appointment. So there are differences, obviously, but they're still politicians. Why do you think we have liberal justices and conservative justices? Look at the process they have to go through to get onto the Supreme Court. Once they've been nominated, the process they have to go through to be confirmed, it's extraordinarily politicized. Of course it is, because it's all political. I was aghast. Now, again, this is not about the Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade. But I'm going to bring that in as an example of something that, again, the narrative in the media is so far removed from how I've ever looked at this. It's actually bizarre to me, at least in the mainstream media. I'm sure somewhere on some podcast somewhere there's somebody saying all the same things I'm saying. But in the mainstream media, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, I heard a lot of things about how, well, the Supreme Court, yes, you have judges who are going to rule one way or the other, but it's become totally politicized now. I actually heard, I don't remember who it was, I heard a political analyst on CNN at the time actually say, well, for the first time in our history, we have, instead of judges wearing black robes, it's like we have judges some are wearing red robes and some are wearing blue robes. And I just was stunned. First of all, do people, again, the individual, whoever they were, I'm sure they were old enough to remember a certain Supreme Court case in the year 2000 called Bush v. Gore. Some of you might remember that. You youngins might not, but Bush v. Gore, where the Supreme Court ultimately decided, there's different ways you can look at it. I would say they decided who the next president of the United States would be. And that was so political, so politicized in terms of how Americans perceived it. They actually, and I had never seen this before, and I'm not sure I've seen this since, when the Supreme Court announced their decision in favor of Bush, effectively giving the election to Bush, again, we can quibble over that's my characterization. You'll hear people say, well, Bush was selected, not elected, selected by the Supreme Court. That's my characterization. You might disagree with it. That's fine. I don't want to get bogged down in that. I was angry at the time. Looking back, I'm still a little angry. Even my dad said to me, and my dad's a conservative, but back then I think he was still a Democrat. And I remember him saying to me, yeah, Maddie, it's like the Supreme Court. They just decided, oh, no, you don't have to count those votes in Florida. Never mind. We're good. But I would hear all the same things then. People have short memories for this stuff, I guess, but I would hear all these things then. And again, it was so politicized. They actually sent speaking of Clarence Thomas, when they announced the decision, they sent Clarence Thomas out to talk to the media. And I don't think it was like an official press conference, but I think he just came out because there was a lot of media. I can kind of mentally picture it, but I don't think he was standing at a podium or anything, but I think it was sort of informal, but I think he came out. He actually came out of chambers to address the media and just said, politics played no role in our decision. I don't think he talked for very long. From what I understand over the years, he doesn't even really talk that much in court. He doesn't ask a lot of questions. That's not a reflection on how he does his job or on him. He just, he just doesn't ask a lot of questions. It's fairly unusual. But he actually came out and talked to the media and tried to reassure everybody politics did not play any role in this. See, I am still angry about it because I suddenly am having trouble speaking. But so none of this is new. And when you look at major cases, as we're analyzing cases that are up before the Supreme Court, inevitably we have conversations about, well, what are the liberal justices how are they going to vote? How are the conservative justices going to vote? So none of this is new. So I just say all that to say, and again, it's not something you say in polite company when you're having a political conversation. There is an expectation that we're all supposed to go, oh my goodness, it's so much worse than I ever imagined with Harlan Crow spending all this money on Justice Thomas, for example, or this news story that's broken with Alito. I never imagined this was going on. Maybe I'm more cynical than the average person on this stuff. because politics, obviously, I love politics, but I'm also very cynical about politics. That might sound strange. How can you love something but also be very cynical about it? But, I'm not a sports fan, but I'm sure a lot of sports fans can relate to that. Like if you have a team that you love, but you're also very cynical about them. I've heard sports fans do that. Oh, I love such and such a team, but they never win. They're going to have another bad season. They're going to break my heart again. I just know it. So it certainly is possible. So I love politics, but I'm very cynical about it. I've always been very cynical about the Supreme Court. I don't see them as any different. I understand the process of how they get there is different. Obviously, they're not elected in an open election. They're nominated and then confirmed or not confirmed. In rare cases, like Bork. Remember Bork? But none of this is shocking to me. Now, I'm going to say something you're really not supposed to say in polite company when you're having a political conversation. Not only am I not shocked about any of this going on, but I don't believe there's any appetite within the court itself to do anything about it. Let me be very specific. And again, I'd be curious to get some listener feedback on this because I can't be the only one who feels this way. Oh, Scott Robinson in the chat says, I love the Hulkster, but I'm mad he's not coming back. Cynical even. Yes, well, he does have quite a few back surgeries, and he's 70. But you'll always be a Hulkamaniac, Scott, and I respect that. So again, I look at this story from usnews.com. Pressure mounts on Chief Justice John Roberts to adopt a code of ethics. Okay, now that brings me to the other part of this, and this is where I'm going to say something that, again, nobody in the mainstream media says this, but I'll say it. Because the narrative in the mainstream media is Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, he must be very troubled by all of this. He must be very troubled by the public's lack of confidence, lack of trust in the Supreme Court. And then it goes back to that, they're exalted because then you get into, because, the general public, they must be so bothered by all of this because the one branch of government they thought they could trust, and turns out there's ethics problems there too, just like you see in the other branches. So there must be pressure. Justice John Roberts must be feeling the pressure. Here's what I'm going to say about that. I'm sorry. I don't believe that Chief Justice John Roberts gives a damn about any of it. I don't. And I'll say this. Why would he? Now this goes to, I know I'm really getting cynical here, but this goes to a broader concept that we talk about on the show. We talk about on the show, especially lately. Well, we talk about some people like to, especially lately, it's in fashion to talk about a two-tiered criminal justice system where I guess, we hold Donald Trump to one standard, which is so unfair, and everybody else to a different standard, or however you want to twist it, right? But the truth is, yes, we do have a two-tiered criminal justice system in this country. You have the wealthy, the elite, the well-connected, the powerful. They have a different standard than the rest of us, than the middle class, than the poor, right? That's what is really two standards of government. I mean, two standards of criminal justice, the way most people think about it, right? So the elite, they protect themselves. They, to a large degree, police themselves. They, to a large degree, escape accountability. And they generally only care about accountability. And when I say the elite, I mean billionaires, or millionaires. I mean politicians. Whoever has a lot of power. The elite. You know what I mean. They care about accountability in as much as they have to look like they're caring about accountability. They only care about as much accountability as they have to. Beyond that, they don't care. Because if they actually did care, then none of this would be a problem to begin with. But they don't. So I see all this in the media now. Oh, first you had the story about Harlan Crow spending all this money on Clarence Thomas. Now you've got this story about Samuel Alito. Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, he must be really troubled by all of this. I don't think he gives a damn. I think he's going to look. I'm like a 12 on the 1 to 10 cynicism meter today, I realize, but I don't think he gives a damn about any of it. But he will look like he will do the bare minimum, which is all you can expect from him. He will do and say the bare minimum to try to make it look like he does. But at the end of the day, why would he? Why would any of them? Why would any of them? Because they are the elite. You don't get much more elite than a Supreme Court justice. I'm not saying they're all rich. I don't know how much money they make, but then again, who needs a big salary when you've got billionaires spending a whole lot of money on you? You know? But you don't get much more elite than that. They don't care. I don't believe for a second Justice John Roberts cares. Sorry, Chief Justice John Roberts. I don't believe he cares. Why would he? Are you going to tell me that he had no idea that Harlan Crow was spending money on Clarence Thomas? Are you going to tell me that he had no idea that whoever this other person, I don't remember, that they were spending money on Samuel Alito? Are you going to tell me that it's completely outside the realm of possibility? I'm not making an accusation. I'm not inferring anything. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Are you going to tell me that it is completely outside the realm of possibility that somebody right now is paying for a very lavish vacation for Chief Justice John Roberts? Why not? This is how the elite operate. There is no accountability unless there has to be. And so far, Chief Justice John Roberts has been pretty quiet, hasn't he? Hasn't said much. Why should he? Why would he? It's the Supreme Court. Again, you don't get much more elite than that. And I mean, hell, you can wipe out 50 years of precedent with one court decision, right? You don't get much more elite and powerful than the Supreme Court. That's the upper echelon of the upper echelon, right? All that power. I don't know. And again, please don't misunderstand. I'm not making excuses or justifications. I'm just saying, I don't know. Human nature being what it is, I don't know if it's even psychologically possible for any normal person at that level of elitism to even make themselves care about accountability, about ethics, and so on. I don't know if the human brain can even manage that. I don't know. But I don't expect that from these people. Maybe Ketanji Brown Jackson is different because she's still kind of the new kid. You know? Maybe, I don't know. I haven't heard anything bad. But then again, the Samuel Alito thing goes back to 2008. We're just hearing about it now. You know? They don't care. They don't care. Nobody's apologizing for anything. Like I said, Samuel Alito, he did that pre-buttal, so he seemed to get a little nervous. But he's like 70 years old. He does. Do you think he actually cares? No. And I guarantee you, John Roberts doesn't care. Could be wrong. Hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. Scott Robinson in the chat room says, the whole Trump thing is very true. It just depends on how you feel about him. That's why he's so polarizing. Let's look at this. Wow, we're already almost to the top of the hour. But let's look at this. So, again, this is from usnews.com. Pressure mounts on Chief Justice John Roberts to adopt a code of ethics. It says here, and I didn't pre-read this, so I'll be learning too. This just went up today, I think. Well, actually, this went up yesterday, but still pretty fresh. Pressure is mounting on Chief Justice John Roberts to adopt a code of ethics for the Supreme Court in the wake of yet another revelation of a justice not disclosing a luxury trip paid for by a billionaire GOP donor with business before the court. Senator Dick Durbin, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, told MSNBC, quote, "There's one person who could end it before the sun sets today, and that's Chief Justice John Roberts. It's time for him to step up and announce there will be a code of ethics for the Supreme Court and that the disclosure laws will apply and they will follow at least the same rules as every other federal judge in America. Not doing so is really at the expense of the reputation of the court," unquote. By the way, that's an important point that he alludes to there. Any other federal judge, you do have a code of ethics. Code of ethics is a pretty standard thing. Oh, but the Supreme Court. Remember, we're taught when we're children. When we first learn about civics in school as children, we're taught, oh, the Supreme Court, that's different. That's different. Those Supreme Court justices, they're different. You can't put any chains on them. That's the Supreme Court. Anybody lower than the Supreme Court who's a federal judge, yeah, they have ethics rules. Durbin's remarks follow a bombshell report from ProPublica that conservative Justice Samuel Alito flew with billionaire Paul Singer on his private jet to a remote fishing and hunting lodge in Alaska, a luxury trip that went unreported in financial disclosure forms, despite the fact that Singer had multiple orders of business before the court. One of those cases, Singer versus Argentina, in which Alito ruled in Singer's favor with the majority of the court, ensured a $2.4 billion windfall for Singer's company. Now, let's think about that for a minute. Now, oh, hello, by the way, to Chris H. from Edgewise, who's in the Facebook live chat. Let's think about that for a minute. Now, we don't know. We can't know. We cannot prove. No one can. That Alito would not have ruled in Singer's favor regardless, right? We can't know that. So we can't know that that's the reason, that because Singer took him on this luxury trip on a private jet to a remote fishing and hunting lodge in Alaska, we can't know that that's the reason Alito ruled that he did. And I'm open to the possibility that it's not, that Alito would have ruled that way anyway. He might have. He might have. But think about either, well, let me just put it this way. The arrogance of Samuel Alito to not care how it looked, unless he just assumed no one would ever find out. But I'm sure at the very least, the other justices had to know. I mean, I've always heard, the Supreme Court justices, even the ones who, are very different, very polarized politically, it's very congenial. It's very, it's a fraternity. It's a very elite club. It's only 9 of them. It's a very elite club. Being a Supreme Court justice. Of course they talk. Of course on Monday morning they talk about their weekend. Of course Samuel Alito said, hey, yeah, wait till you hear what I did. Wait till you hear what I got to do. So I've certainly met people who just don't have the self-awareness to realize that they're doing something that looks really bad. That's possible. But I assume you don't get to be a Supreme Court justice being an idiot. So I have to assume that Samuel Alito had the self-awareness to know that to any normal person, this might look really bad. So giving him that benefit of the doubt and assuming he's not completely oblivious and does have a degree of self-awareness, I have to assume that he was just so arrogant that he just didn't care. Just didn't care how it looks. He might have convinced himself. He very well. Look, We're all guilty of it. We've all done this, right? I don't mean we've done this, but we've all been in situations where we convince ourselves of things. Oh, I can trust myself in this particular scenario, right? We convince ourselves that we can trust ourselves with things that maybe we shouldn't actually be trusting ourselves with, but we kind of use that as an excuse to do something we probably shouldn't be doing. So in other words, he probably may have possibly convinced himself, you know what? This guy has a case coming up that I'm going to be ruling on. And some people might think that looks really inappropriate for me to accept this luxury trip. But you know what? You know what though? I'm cool. I trust myself. I know me, and I know that I am an ethical person above reproach, and I would never allow something like this to influence me. So, hey, if Paul Singer wants to spend all this money on me, joke's on him. It's not going to affect my decision in this case one iota. That's right. I'm Sam Alito. I'm ethical. I am so confident in my own ethics that you can buy me a luxury trip, and I know it will not affect how I feel about you and your court case and how I'm going to rule. It won't affect anything. Oh, you can try. You can try to bribe me. Oh, go ahead and try. That's how confident I am in my goodness, in my ethics, in my honesty. No, seriously, go ahead. Try to bribe me. Go ahead. Yeah, send me on a luxury trip. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, you're wasting your time. It's not going to get you anything, but yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and try. Whatever. I won't try to stop you. I mean, people do. Again, and that's an element of human nature. People do talk themselves into things, thinking, I can trust myself. And then, oops, I let myself down. Oh, but I can't admit to myself that I let myself down. Scott Robinson says, kind of like that pepperoni and pineapple pizza. It's nothing like that, Scott. That's a pineapple on pizzas in its own realm of hell. Let's see. Durbin said, quote, "You're not talking about minor rulings. That is substantial," unquote. Last month, ProPublica published a similarly striking story about Justice Clarence Thomas, who was treated to lavish vacations for more than 2 decades by billionaire and Republican megadonor Harlan Crow, including on his yacht, private jet, and exclusive resorts. Crow also bought the house where Thomas's mother lives, provided most of the budget for a conservative political organization founded by Thomas's wife, Jenny. I was gonna refer to I was gonna editorialize and refer to Jenny as his insurrectionist wife, but I don't think she actually stormed the Capitol. She just, but she did try to subvert democracy by overturning the election, working behind the scenes to overturn the election. Seditionist, we'll go with that. Jenny, the seditionist wife of Clarence Thomas. Oh, that's odd. Sorry, everybody. Little issue with my computer here. See, did I fix it? I fixed it. Yeah, so, Harlan Crow covered the tab of the private school tuition for Thomas's grandnephew. So Durbin said, quote, "This is the bottom line as far as I see it. The disclosures from Justice Alito strangely or sadly parallel the same disclosures about Justice Thomas. It appears that there is a feeling on the Supreme Court that it's none of our business. No one needs to know when conflicts or interests occur, and the justices don't need to recuse themselves on critical decisions that are worth billions of dollars from people who are befriending them on their vacations," unquote. By the way, part of the reason I think you do occasionally, it's rare though, or maybe it's not as rare as I think it is. I mean, somebody who really watches the Supreme Court more closely than I do might know better, but my impression is that it's relatively rare, but it does happen. Recusals do happen. they have happened where somebody on the Supreme Court says, I don't think I should rule on this case for whatever reason. But my suspicion is that because that happens every once in a while, that there is probably a thought in the minds of these justices that, well, you know, people do recuse themselves occasionally, so that should be good enough. So we look like we are recusing ourselves when appropriate. So if we don't recuse ourselves when we're being bought and paid for, that's okay. As long as it happens once in a while, no one will catch on. It says here, while ethical transgressions among Supreme Court justices are not new, the frequency and depth of the transgressions seems to have reached a crescendo. And legal and judicial ethics experts agree that the court is at a watershed moment, standing on the precipice of public trust. See, again, though, the public trust thing, this has become a narrative in the mainstream media. Well, the court is losing the public trust. I got news for you. I'm the only one who'll say it. I don't think they care. Why would they care? It's a lifetime appointment. They don't care about the public's trust. Why would they? What's going to happen? They're going to lose their next election? Oops. It's a lifetime appointment. Doesn't matter to them. I promise you, that's the last thing on the minds of any of these people. Public's trust. Scott says in the chat room, that's very cynical. Yeah, I know. See, to me, it all seems obvious, but it's actually too cynical for what you get in the mainstream media. So if I have to be the guy who says, hey, let's just call this like it is, then I guess that's, I'm the chosen one, as a former president once said. A Gallup poll taken last year showed that just 25% of the public has faith in the Supreme Court, a new low, and down from 31% in 2021 in the wake of increasing perceptions of politicization and a widely unpopular ruling overturning the Roe v. Wade precedent that guaranteed abortion access. The ethical controversies have done little to restore trust. For his part, Alito has strongly denied any ethical wrongdoing, issuing a legalistic defense to the Wall Street Journal that parses the terminology used to govern ethics transgressions and has been criticized for selectively addressing the allegations against him. Thomas also has vehemently denied any conduct outside of current ethical guidelines. While the justices... Wow, good enough for me! Okay, thanks, guys. No. While the justices have reportedly... See, that's what they're counting on, though. They count on that. Well, we'll throw them... We'll just tell them, no, it's all good. Don't worry about it. And that'll be good enough. And we don't care about the public trust anyway, so whatever. I got a flight on a private jet to catch. I don't have time to worry about the public's trust. I'm going to the Bahamas with one of my billionaire buddies. He's got a case coming before the court next month. It's going to be great. Not that that has anything to do with the trip, but I got to go catch that plane. Can't keep a billionaire waiting. That billionaire is going to spend a lot of money on me. While the justices have reportedly been internally debating about how to reform their code of ethics for the last 4 years, they've failed to reach a consensus. Have not committed to a timeline, and Chief Justice Roberts has refused invitations to appear before Congress to address the matter. Oh, yeah, he doesn't care. And he's also in his 70s, right? Justice Roberts? Yeah, you think at this point he's all of a sudden going to say, you know what, maybe this was a mistake. Accepting all the, maybe I should go talk to Congress about it, explain my side of things. He doesn't care. He's going to be a Supreme Court justice until the day he dies, and he knows it. He does not care. Democrats in both chambers have offered legislative solutions, but even those with bipartisan support would be difficult to pass through the Republican-controlled House, especially at a time when the court's conservative majority is set to move on a slate of issues important to their voting base. Durbin said, quote, they failed to disclose the very basic things. It's got to come to an end, unquote. All right. Well, nothing will change. Let's see. We are a little bit past the top of the hour. We do need to get to a break soon. But should we look at... Wall Street. Oh, Let's look at this. This is from Politico. And then we'll go to break. I want to look at this first. So we'll move on to something else in the second hour. But Wall Street Journal editorial board defends Alito, calls ProPublica's report non-scandal built on partisan spin. Jenny is on the line. Hello.
Hello. Did I catch you in between topics?
No, but that's okay. It's a good time.
I was listening and trying. I wanted to call in and just say thank you to the people that have been supporting me. I'm really excited. I'm leaving Sunday to go back to D.C. to attend the People's Action National Convention.
Yes.
And there's about 40 different organizations that are going to be there. We're expecting 1,000 people or so in attendance. I'm really excited to get to speak there about health care and that everybody deserves access to health care, no matter who they are in this nation. Everybody should be able to access health care, and that's what I'm going to be working on. And I will be coming back in late Tuesday night after I go back to the Capitol and do some more lobbying before I come home.
Yes. Very good. And will any of that be streaming, do you know? I mean, I would assume so, but...
I think so, but I've we've all been doing so many things preparing for this, I keep forgetting to ask.
Yeah.
It's a live stream. Yeah, but I'm sure everything's going to be recorded and stuff. And I do know that there are some videos of me that look to be getting put together. They may be coming soon.
Very good.
So there will be more videos.
Yes, of course. All right, excellent.
Alrighty. I will let you go on to the next topic because I was actually paying attention. I was trying to get you before you started the Wall Street article.
Oh, okay.
I actually listen before I call in. It's this crazy thing I have.
Yeah, not
everyone. I'm kind of like figuring out what you're talking about first. I don't know.
Not everyone does that.
Good habit, bad habit.
True.
Who knows?
It's good. It's a good habit. All right, Jenny. Thank you.
Have a good shows. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Very good. Yeah, just quickly, and then we will get to break. But Wall Street Journal editorial board defends Alito. All right, let's see what they had to say. Now, this isn't directly from the Wall Street Journal. This is from Politico. It says here, the Wall Street Journal's editorial board defended Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito in his previously undisclosed fishing trip with a GOP donor in an editorial Wednesday night, blasting ProPublica's report as a non-scandal built on partisan spin. Oh, never mind. Thought we had another call. The board wrote, quote, the political assault on the Supreme Court continues, and the latest justice in the grinder is Samuel Alito. As usual, this is a non-scandal built on partisan spin intended to harm the justice and the current court majority, unquote. Alito came under scrutiny after a ProPublica investigation revealed that the justice had taken an expensive and previously undisclosed luxury fishing trip with prominent conservative donor Paul Singer in 2008. He also stayed at a pricey inn bankrolled by another major GOP donor, the report alleged. Alito penned a defensive op-ed in the Journal before the report's publication, denying any wrongdoing, alleging in the headline that ProPublica misleads its readers. Yeah, so the reason that happened is ProPublica reached out to Alito for comment on the story. So he knew the story was coming. So he posted that op-ed in the Wall Street Journal as kind of a prebuttal to get out ahead of the story. And Shannon's on the line. Hi, Shannon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I know it's your favorite day. So
yes.
That's good. Tell Pauly C and DJ Steve and Mike I said hello.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tonight.
Okay, will do.
And I was going to say, the judge there, when he went on his fishing trip, did he go over the limit on his catch? Is that divulged anywhere? I mean, really?
He probably did.
Okay, good.
Who's going to hold him accountable?
Yeah. I mean, there's limitations, you know. I think, I don't know anymore what they are, but truthfully, you know, fishing-wise, there's limitations, but
yes,
that's neither here nor there. I was being smart.
Yeah, I know.
Smarty pants, you know?
It's allowed.
Blarney.
All right, Shannon.
Have a good night.
All right, you too. Have a good weekend.
And tell Jenny I said hi.
Absolutely. She's listening.
Bye-bye.
She heard you. All right, bye-bye. All right, that was our friend Shannon. Just want to finish up with this before we get to a break. The The editorial board lambasted ProPublica for its, and by the way, ProPublica is a liberal site. That is, we should say that, but lambasted ProPublica for its typically slanted, quote unquote, reporting, alleging that Alito had violated the court's ethics policy of disclosing gifts. Numerous lawmakers have called for reform on the court since the outlet revealed earlier this year Justice Clarence Thomas's close ties with GOP megadonor Harlan Crow. Let me stop there for a second, though. I don't see, here's the point of all this, of why I'm talking about this today. Whether, okay, so ProPublica, so they're saying, the Wall Street Journal is saying, well, ProPublica, that's hard to say, ProPublica is ProPublica. There, I can do it. They're saying that, he violated the ethics rules. What a ridiculous thing to accuse him of. How dare they? Well, to me, honestly, that's not even the point. The only point I'm trying to make here, guys, I don't know how the ethics rules work. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of ethics rules, or they don't seem to be enforced. I'm just making the point that no one should be surprised, and we need to get over this idea of thinking of the Supreme Court as somehow being different. Those are politicians. There's a reason we have liberal and conservative justices and judges in this country. They're politicians. They are. We can pretend all we want to that they're not, but they are. And again, think of how highly politicized the entire process it is to just go through confirmation to become a Supreme Court justice. And then you can accurately predict, not all the time, but much of the time, which way each individual justice is going to rule based on what? Their politics, their ideology. So I'm just saying we need to, if we want anything to change here, I'm not worried particularly about what rule he broke or didn't break. What I'm worried about is that he had the arrogance to not even care about, there's this phrase that everybody should know, the appearance of impropriety. Not just impropriety, the appearance of impropriety. And if you're in a position of power and you don't care about the appearance of impropriety, whether there is any actual impropriety or not, if you're not cared about the appearance of it, then you're just arrogant. You don't have to, you're in a position where you don't have to care, so you don't care. So you engage in what as much impropriety or even things that might look like impropriety as you want to, because it just doesn't matter to you. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter to Samuel Alito. They're saying, well, they're claiming he violated the rules. It's not about whether or not he violated the rules. It's about the fact that he doesn't care. And I'm sure none of them care. And I'm sure John Roberts doesn't care. And I damn well know Clarence Thomas doesn't care. None of them care. Because they don't care about us. Because they don't care what we think. They are the elite. They know it. And they don't care about any of us. And they don't care about our trust in the Supreme Court is at an all-time low. I've not trusted the Supreme Court a day in my life, just as I have not trusted senators, just as I've not trusted congressmen, just as I've not trusted presidents, just as I would not trust a king or a queen. You don't blindly just trust people in power. I mean, and by the way, if there's a particularly powerful person who you do put your blind faith and trust in, unquestioning faith and trust, well, then you might be in a cult. But anyway, the board added, the Wall Street Journal editorial board, quote, Justice Alito is still on the court. So he is the big fish that ProPublica is attempting to catch and fillet. We are defending the court because someone has to. Someone has to stand up for judicial independence and an institution that is part of the bedrock of our constitutional order, unquote. I wish I'd worn some boots before I read that. Wow. We are standing up for the court because someone has to. Oh, the poor Supreme Court is being picked on. Let me translate that for you. We at the Wall Street Journal editorial board, we are part of the elite. Someone else in the elite is being picked on. The system protects itself. The elite protect themselves. That's what that really means. Trying to cast the Supreme Court as some sort of victim, that's actually bizarre and pretty nuts even for the Wall Street Journal. Stephen Engelberg, ProPublica's editor-in-chief, condemned the op-ed's headline, quote, which the piece declared without anyone having read the article and without asking for our comment. We're curious to know whether the journal fact-checked the essay before publication, unquote, he told the New York Times. Meanwhile, a new poll from Quinnipiac published Wednesday found that the Supreme Court's public approval rating sinking to 30% among registered voters, the lowest since the poll began nearly 2 decades ago. They don't care. I'm telling you. All right, let's get to a break. We're running late. I'm going to play a little song for you. Little Chemical Distance, I think, on a Friday. And then we'll show some love to our amazing sponsors. And then we'll be back with the balance of our show. There's plenty more to come on Matt Connarton Unleashed. Don't go away.
It's so hard to say where we are today. It's like everything we want is so far away. All our dreams are like distant stars at play, squeezing through our fingers like a ball of clay. Calls that say we need another dollar stack. We hate to holler at you, but you gotta call us back. You're pulling at your collar like a cardiac. You're full of pressure like a heart attack, then like a thunder crack. You can see through it all. Past the blunders, everything that made you fall. World torn asunder like urban sprawl. As you wander through the dust like aerosol. As you try to put the world together again. As you weigh your soul up against the feather again. But together, we'll survive the weather and then we can talk about the rest of forever and then. Whatever then, talk about how we treat each other, defeat each other, how we beat each other. We need each other, gotta plant the seed of brotherhood, lead for the common good. So when you're sitting pissed in a traffic jam and you can see it all around you like a hologram, let the lady in a way of welcome, and you see nobody needs another Birmingham. Cause I tell you the truth so medicinally, don't wanna sell you the fruit, you should listen to me. The cradle fell with the roof, flies listen and we lost our youth and still we're missing the key. Sign of the times, the sign of the times, pay no attention to the rhythm and rhyme. Put your hand down, I'ma help you climb, cause I don't wanna be another sign of the times. Sign of the times, the sign of the times, pay no attention to the rhythm and rhyme. Put your hand down, I'ma help you climb, cause I don't wanna be another sign of the times. We gotta bounce when we hit the ground. Take a head count, take a look around. We all amount to something I found. So help somebody up and make the world go round. The sound of one hand just don't clap. We can't rebuild towns with off-handed rap. We can't pretend this is just a mishap. We can't defend our opinions with straps. We gotta act with solidarity. Stay focused on freedom and charity. We gotta share, it's the key to prosperity. Don't let fear turn into barbarity. Or would you care to be in someone else's shoes? Truth and dare like hell or heaven to choose. Everywhere there's people who just roll with the blues. Say a prayer cause there's more than just your soul to lose. I know you're feeling alone, engaged as a chorus in this microphone. Enraged, gotta stop touching your cranium bone. Birdcage, stop obsessing cause you're not on your own. You never know when the need will appear. Trouble moves as I do, better keep what you hear. Double true when you plant your seed, it's due here because your duty is to let the world interfere. But you gotta steer clear of any other negative that got you here. You gotta see, a lot of what we see is fear. But you gotta rise above it like the atmosphere. Sign of the times, the sign of the times. Pay no attention, just the rhythm and rhyme. Put your hand down, I'ma help you climb. Cause I don't wanna be another sign of the times. Sign of the times, the sign of the times. Pay no attention, just the rhythm and rhyme. Put your hand down, I'ma help you climb. Cause I don't wanna be another sign of the times. Before the dawn, so gather in the park with your parkers on, and make another spark before the stars are gone, to keep away the sharks of Babylon, cause they traveled on the waves of tragedy. They gathered at the grave so glad to see another dead slave to the powers that be, and they fed on the dread like energy. But don't let them be, don't give them nothing to take, cause there will never be a time when you got nothing at stake. Are you gonna bend? Are you gonna break? Are you gonna defend all the plays you make? Are you gonna run away from an SOS? Are you gonna shun another who's in distress? Who's the one who your mother taught to meek and blessed? Who's the one who your mother taught to help the rest? Sign of the times, it's just a media spin. Headlines dramatize and see that we're in. Closer down the beach if they imagine a fear. Don't trust what they teach on your television. Sign of the times, it's just a line in the sand, designed to hide how close we all stand. But twice a day, the tide washes washes over the land, washes over the land, washes over the land. Sign of the times, sign of the times. Pay no attention to the rhythm and rhyme. Put your hand out, I'ma help you climb. Cause I don't wanna be another sign of the times. Sign of the times, the sign of the times. Pay no attention to the rhythm and rhyme. Put your hand out, I'ma help you climb. Cause I don't wanna be another sign of the times.
Come on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, 3 dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry, located at 87 Elm Street in the historic Sunbeam Mall in Manchester. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at queencitycabinetrynh.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
This hour on WMNH is sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 5 Dartmouth Drive in Auburn. They serve all your business needs, including employee benefits planning, corporate design and business administration, investments and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. Their phone number is 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
WMNH, rip the knob off.
Welcome back, everybody, as we cruise into our final segment today on Matt Connarton Unleashed. We are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all of your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today is Friday, June 23, 2023. So nice to have you all with me. Friday, of course, my favorite day of the week here because it's my long day at WMNH. I get to do double duty, and I do love it because immediately after this show, of course, we have Granite State of Mind hosted by Rob Azevedo and Paulie Stone, which, by the way, next week is moving to Thursdays at 9 p.m., apparently. So I heard that announcement today on the morning show. But then I am back tonight from 8 to 11 p.m. for Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. And very excited about that. Of course, along with Paul and myself, I'm one of his co-hosts. We have DJ Steve and Mike from Queen City Cabinetry. And this week, the subject is part 2 of original demo recordings of popular songs. Had a great time with that last week. That was a lot of fun. I love the subject. I'm a nerd for that kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to tonight's show as well. Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. beginning tonight from 8 to 11 p.m. Let's see, what else is going on? Tonight at the Hop Knot, if you're out and about, Of course, they've got those delicious gourmet pretzels. They have the ever burgeoning assortment of craft beer. They've also got a very special event tonight, Big Gay Bingo at the Hop Knot, hosted by Onyx Reigns and Glam Chowda, beginning tonight at 9 p.m. It's like bingo, but gay. And looks like our friend Ron is on the line. Hi, Ron.
Yeah, hi, Matt. Good show tonight. And I'm intrigued as to what Jenny is doing. I wish there was more info. And I hope and surely, obviously, it's a peaceful event. I just, hands down, that's pretty courageous. So that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yes, I'm very proud of her, and of course, she's going for another event in DC, or a couple of things where she'll be speaking, and it's fantastic. You know, she's really doing a lot to try to help people get health care. Yeah, well, thank God. I mean, you never hear about people standing up, and to know someone that does it, it's like, wow, that's awesome. So, I wish her totally the best. I can't wait to hear the outcome. Hopefully, I would love to see it on the news, but that's not going to happen. Maybe not on local news here in Manchester, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see her pop up on the national news.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was it. It's going to be a good show tonight, I know. And Jenny, really, kudos to you. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, she said.
And everybody, be safe. Have a good weekend.
All right, Ron, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. And you as well.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
You still there, Matt?
I am. Yes. I'm still here.
I guess the other day that allegedly some food was left over. Did anybody take part, or did it just get trashed? A couple of hot dogs.
I did not. I have no idea. I don't know anything about hot dogs being left.
Yeah.
I have no clue. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it don't matter. It was curiosity because, curiosity more than anything. That's all.
Right.
All right, guys.
All right, Ron. Thank you for the call.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. That was our friend Ron. Always nice to hear from him. I know nothing of the hot dogs, but and even if I did get here in the afternoon and there were hot dogs left over, that's not something I think. It's one thing if there's like a muffin, like if somebody leaves a muffin, but I'll enjoy that. But if there were some hot dogs, I do remember the time I came in and there was a box of donuts left over from the morning show, and I opened the box of donuts, and there's a few donuts, but there's also a hot dog in there, and I couldn't touch those donuts after they'd been in the box with that hot dog because something about that just seems so wrong. But Jenny is in the chat room, Ron, if you're still listening. She said, thank you. Yes, absolutely. 603-250-6007 is the number if you'd like to join us. 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. Oh, but I do want to finish talking about what's going on tonight with the Big Gay Bingo at the Hop Knot, because this is actually for a very good cause. This is what Kenny put on social media. We'll get going at 9 p.m., so get there early to grab a good seat. The game is free to play, but we'd love it if you made a $5 donation to MVAP NH, a local organization that helps people living with HIV and AIDS maintain a high quality of life through education, support, and empowerment. So that will be, that's an excellent cause. And they do, we're very proud to have them as a sponsor for a number of reasons, but they do a lot for the community at the Hop Knot. And hey, the food's pretty good too. And the craft beer, and Trudy is going to be here with us on Monday in studio. So we look forward to that. But yes, it's like bingo, but gay. And of course, appropriate for Pride Month. It is the 23rd. So we've got about another week left. One more week of Pride for 2023. So very good, very good. Also going on tonight too, by the way, DJ Reckless is in the main room at Soho tonight. If you want to go and see him DJ and support, he's been working very, very hard, and we're very proud of him. So just want to mention that too. Let's see. quick thing. This came up earlier in the week. I think it was Crystal, our friend from Illinois, who had originally brought this up. And we didn't get to it that day. I haven't seen her in the chat room, so I don't know if she's listening today. But this story about Spotify, Bill Simmons at Spotify, he's a Spotify executive, and he called Prince Harry and Meghan Markle blanking grifters, except he used the actual word, which starts with F, and I do not mean Farfignugan. And initially, I was kind of like, yeah, whatever, because I don't care about the royal family and I don't care about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But it's not something I get into. I just don't pay that much attention to them. But this did catch my interest, actually, upon taking a second look, because I do care about media in all its forms, whether we're talking about more establishment media like cable news, for example, or online media like Spotify and all their various podcasts and things. What goes on in the world of media at any of the various levels that we have today is very interesting to me, especially when there's some sort of drama. So this is from Newsweek. Spotify exec has grenade-like Prince Harry story. So I did want to take a closer look at this because I'm very curious about what happened here. You know, and again, if you're a host or a content creator like myself, this type of thing might be interesting to you. It says here, the collapse of the Spotify deal will not damage Meghan Markle, but an executive's hint at a grenade-like anecdote about Prince Harry could be crippling, a PR expert told Newsweek. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex's multi-year partnership with the streaming giant, along with Netflix, was heralded as proof of their financial independence from the monarchy when it was announced in December of 2020. 3 years later, and the two sides have parted ways with only a 12-part podcast to show for it. Bill Simmons, host of podcast innovation. Oh, I'm sorry. Bill Simmons, he's the head of podcast innovation and monetization at Spotify, added insult to injury by calling the couple blanking grifters during his own podcast. The swipe captured headlines not only at the ordinarily hostile British press, but also as far and wide as CNN, Variety, and Deadline. However, there was another remark by Simmons that caught the eye of PR consultant Eric Schiffer, head of reputation management consultants. Simmons added, quote, "I got to get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom call I had with Harry trying to help him with a podcast idea. It's one of my best stories," unquote. Schiffer told Newsweek, quote, "That is a crippling comment because it raises it at a critical time with the contract, and it suggests there's something there that could be a grenade-like story to Harry. We'll have to see whether he chooses to release it. For a Spotify executive to attack Harry in broad daylight and Spotify not condemn it suggests there's some strong feelings within the executive team at Spotify against Harry and perhaps some dark feelings about the interactions," unquote. Simmons' account is difficult for Harry because it highlights the fact that the Duke did attempt to produce a Spotify podcast that never got to the point it was considered fit for release. However, the Sussex camp may also note the phrase, quote, "one of my best stories," unquote, which suggests Simmons may have already told people what was discussed. Now, I'm going to, let's look at this other story because I think this is related. This is from Bloomberg, and this is new. So I think this gets into, hello to, there's a new name in the Facebook live chat, Brandon Curcio? I'm sorry for butchering your last name, but welcome to the program, Brandon. This is something, this just popped up, so I think this is related. This is from Bloomberg. Prince Harry's podcast pitch. Interview Putin and Trump about their childhoods. During a nearly 3-year production deal with Spotify, the Duke of Sussex explored several podcast ideas. None came to fruition. By the way, if anyone from Spotify is listening, if you'd like to offer me a multi-year deal with lots of money, I'd be more than happy to. I've got lots of ideas. I've got tons of ideas. And I'm not a grifter. And, feel free to, I know you backed the Brinks truck up to Joe Rogan's front door when you hired him. If you want to do that for me, you certainly can. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have recognized the name. Jenny says, Brandon is in one of my favorite bands, After Image. Yes. All right. Welcome, Brandon. After Image, of course, has been on the show. Great band. Go back and check that episode in the archive if you didn't hear the interview. Fantastic. Okay, so here's what it says here. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Soundbite. It's another week of Spotify news, this time with a royal family twist. Okay. What were Prince Harry's podcast ideas? It says, last week news broke that, like many of Spotify's high-profile podcast deals over the years, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's partnership with the Swedish streamer is coming to an end. I didn't know Spotify was a Swedish company. My goodness. Are they in NATO yet, or are we still trying to make that happen? Are they the ones where there's the issue, or is it Finland? Who's Turkey still mad at, where they can't get in? I forget. Anyway, in a joint emailed statement, Spotify and Archwell Audio, Markle and Harry's production company, said they, quote, have mutually agreed to part ways and are proud of the series we made together, unquote. Oh, that 12-episode thing? It's not a bad time to look back at the 2020 press release announcing the partnership, which promised that Markle and Harry would produce and host podcasts, and that the first complete series was expected to debut in 2021. Ultimately, the relationship only yielded one season of one show, Archetypes, which Markle hosted. It debuted in 2022. Hey, listen, can I just throw this out there? And I told you I have a lot of ideas. I would like to hear Meghan Markle do a podcast about her experience acting on the television series Suits. Meghan Markle, the only reason I ever knew who she was before she married Prince Harry was because she played Rachel Zane on the show Suits, which aired on the USA Network. I don't watch a lot of television, but I was a big fan of that show. Beyond that, I never really cared much about her, but I was a big fan of that show. I think she should do a podcast about Suits. I think that'd be fantastic. I mean, I don't think I'd actually bother to listen to it, but it's just an idea. But apparently the deal's already off. So it says, over the past week, more details have continued to emerge. Fellow Spotify podcaster Bill Simmons took his eponymous show to call the couple grifters and tease an absurd Zoom call he once had with Harry about possible podcast ideas, which he told listeners is one of his best stories. That said, Simmons had previously criticized Harry in January 2023, saying he was so embarrassed to be on Spotify with him. Wow. That'd be fascinating if you're in that position. You know, you're an executive at Spotify and you've made a multi-million-dollar deal with this person, and then you say you're so embarrassed to be on the same platform as them. The dynamics of that are fascinating to me. Simmons at the time said, quote, what does he do? It's one of those things where it's like, what's your talent? Why are we listening to you? So you were born in a royal family and then you left. You sell documentaries and podcasts and nobody cares what you have to say about anything unless you talk about the royal family and you just complain about them, unquote. Although, again, if his wife wants to talk about Suits, I would care about that. Not enough to bother to actually listen, though, so it probably doesn't count. Thanks to his uncensored takes on the prince's media skills, or apparent lack thereof, Simmons has now joined the upper ranks of Harry commentators to the point that paparazzi at the Daily Mail are snapping photos of him walking in a parking garage. Really, though. This got me wondering, while there's been all this talk of Markle's podcast and what she did or didn't produce, what happened to the potential Harry show? I spoke to people with knowledge of the situation about what ideas the prince floated and why none of them ever came to fruition. They requested anonymity because they weren't authorized to speak about his work. Spotify declined to comment, as did Archwell Audio. Harry spoke with multiple producers and production houses, these people said, to discuss possible shows. Along the way, Harry listened to various ideas from others, but mostly stuck to his own, including one about childhood trauma. The concept? Harry would interview a procession of controversial guests, such as Vladimir Putin, Mark Zuckerberg, and Donald Trump, about their early formative years and how those experiences resulted in the adults they are today. Not the worst idea. Harry also had an idea, the people said, for a show centered on fatherhood. That sounds boring. But I'm not a dad. Maybe if I was a dad, I'd like it. Another one would have tackled major societal conversations episode by episode, ranging from climate change to religion. Oh my God, now that would have been spectacular. What an original idea. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. You know, there's literally a million other podcasts that do that. That's one of the few statistics I actually have memorized. There's actually 1 million podcasts that discuss that specifically. I'm rounding that number up a little bit, but for the latter, Harry hoped to have Pope Francis on as a guest. Okay. So basically, Harry's whole thing was he was going to bring on these really big and important guests. The practicality of these ideas struck some people in the Harry podcast cosmos as questionable at best, given that people like Putin and Zuckerberg rarely give wide-ranging interviews about the topics they're passionate about, let alone about their upbringings and personal childhood traumas. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to be in a room with Vladimir Putin. Scott Robinson says, Matt, you say sarcastic. I say cynical. In any case, no podcast from Harry ever materialized. The difficulty of nailing down a workable idea and actually recording a show over nearly 3 years of a production deal speaks to the broader reckoning around celebrity-driven content. Yeah, you know what's interesting? You know what this reminds me of? So, Spotify is one example where you see this. Another is Sirius XM satellite radio. And I have satellite radio in my car, and I listen to Howard Stern. Something that I've heard Howard, and I love my news channels. I love having access to news anytime I want it, which is much of the time. But something Howard has complained about over the years is the way that Sirius XM will give a celebrity like Oprah. He loves to complain about Oprah anyway. It's always been kind of his thing. It's not like he hates her or anything. He just likes to complain about her. But just as an example, so at one point, they made a deal with Oprah where they gave Oprah her own channel. And they've done this with other celebrities too. But then the content on the Oprah channel is barely any actual Oprah Winfrey. There's barely any of her on there. And it's just a lot of other content that people who like Oprah might enjoy, but almost no actual Oprah. And Howard just is amazed that company would spend so much money to effectively license the name of Oprah Winfrey without her actually doing anything in terms of contributing content. And on the rare occasion that she was going to do something, it was a really big deal, but she was going to do like a 30-minute, this actually happened one time. In fact, this relates to childhood trauma. She was going to be doing on the Oprah channel a 30-minute special where she was going to be taking calls from listeners who had experienced childhood trauma and talking with them and hearing their stories. And she's going to have a psychologist there with her to help her for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Like, who'd even bother to tune in for something that's only going to be on for a half hour? And Howard was just aghast. Just could not believe that company spent all that money just to do something like that with Oprah. And again, there's other examples too. But this is the thing with these platforms, whether it's Spotify or Sirius XM. All right, a little bit more to this article. It says, the pandemic reduced work for movie stars and others who typically fly around the world from project to project. Instead, they were all stuck at home with plenty of time on their hands, which is why, for a while, so many celebrities were signing podcast deals, even if they didn't necessarily have a concrete workable idea that could get made into a show, let alone become a hit. These stars also maintained expectations for the kind of jumbo paychecks that were once reserved for movies, commercials, and Las Vegas club appearances, and were not in any way typical of the podcast economy. Regardless, audio executives clamored to sign up A-listers in the hopes they'd win and secure a hit. The companies staffed up, and for a while, it felt like the momentum would never stop. But as we reemerge from that time, and both stars and normies go back to some semblance of their old routines, we're seeing many of those earlier commitments fall by the wayside. In short, the great celeb podcast boom is quickly going bust. Clearly, in retrospect, many of these vastly expensive deals that never resulted in much of anything shouldn't have been made, but the money was spent, And as cost-cutting measures continue to spread through the podcast industry, the ramifications of this misspending for everybody else aren't entirely over yet. Just ask the many regular producers, editors, and engineers who continue to lose their jobs. So that gives us a little more insight into some of Prince Harry's ideas. It sounds to me, just obviously on the outside looking in, that he had ideas. Sometimes it's not a matter of, I've fallen into this trap myself, and I think a lot of creative people do. Sometimes it's not a matter of lacking ideas. Sometimes you can have several ideas, but it's almost, if you have too many ideas, it's hard to commit to one. And if you don't commit to a single idea, then you end up in this sort of paralyzed state where nothing happens, because you haven't chosen a path that you're going to go down. So you end up just kind of standing there. You've got a bunch of ideas, but no action. And sometimes the hardest part is picking something, saying, I'm going to do that. This is my idea. This is the direction I'm going. If you're spending, in business, they call it analysis paralysis, where you don't make a decision because you're spending so much time trying to examine all the options and perhaps second guessing yourself and overanalyzing, and that you end up just not deciding anything. It's like the line from that Rush song, if you, what is it? Even if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. I'm not sure I said that right. Whatever. They're Canadian. If I'm going to quote somebody on the show, I should be quoting American bands, right? America. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. If you'd like to get in with a very quick and terse call before we completely run out of time on today's program. There was something very brief that we could do. Let's do this. Former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, was in New Hampshire campaigning, as he often, I think he basically lives here now, actually. I think he's here a lot, at least until such time. I mean, I don't think he has any kind of a chance. But one of the things about Chris Christie, and we've talked about this on the show with our friend Eric Pilcher, who will be back soon, by the way, if you're wondering about his film reviews and everything. He's taking a little break because he's got some family stuff to deal with, but he will be back, I promise. But Eric Pilcher, my favorite conservative, as I like to say about him, he's actually endorsed Chris Christie. I don't endorse candidates myself, except for Jerry Robinson, of course, for savior of real rock and roll music. That's an exception, because Jerry Robinson is just extremely impressive. But the was something I've noticed about Chris Christie, though, and Eric and I talked about this on the show recently, is that, and I think I dare say, I think our conversation about this might have contributed in some way to him ultimately deciding to endorse Chris Christie. You see a lot of, you take Governor Ron DeSantis, for example. He's kind of the extreme of this, but if you ask Governor Ron DeSantis in a media appearance, why is he running for president? The first thing out of his mouth, literally the first thing out of his mouth, is he talks about how we have to we have to defeat wokeism. And it's very important to defeat wokeism and leftism and the LGBTQ plus agenda and all of it is just so terrible, and we have to defeat it. And meanwhile, of course, if you're maybe a moderate Republican sitting there staring at your electric bill going, how am I going to pay this? It's double what it was last year at this time. That might not be the first thing on your list of priorities, but it is the first thing on Ron DeSantis's mind. And you have a lot of other Republican candidates who don't take it to the extreme that DeSantis does, but they do talk about that stuff a lot. They're very much into the culture war stuff. Nikki Haley certainly is, and others. Chris Christie, interestingly, one of the ways that he's distinguished himself, aside from the fact that he's not afraid of Donald Trump and not afraid to directly take him on, is he also doesn't seem to be particularly interested in the culture war stuff. And he's not interested in, attacking trans people and all of it. And in fact, and this actually surprised me. So Again, a lot of these Republican candidates, they're always, well, again, DeSantis in Florida signed a bill, no more gender affirming care, I think for anybody, right? But Chris Christie, in my view, he's the one Republican that really stands out on this issue. He is asked about this very subject by Brian Kilmeade on Fox News. And this is just only a minute, but I just want to share with you Chris Christie's answer, because I must tell you, this guy, in my view, knocks it out of the park with what he has to say. And I love what he has to say here. And if we had more time on the show today, we could really dig in on this, but I'll just share this and maybe we'll pick this up on Monday. But listen to, here's the question and answer. Listen to this.
Where he's doing quite well, already making an impact. Governor, your thoughts about the push in Florida and Arkansas to make it illegal to do it for kids under 18?
Brian, I just don't want to see our government getting more intrusive in everybody's life, getting bigger. I don't think anything can replace parents when you're talking about major decisions that need to be made by our children. And I will tell you this, I want all parents out there to think about something. How many other decisions do you want the government making for you in your home regarding your kids? I don't want any of those decisions made by the government. Parents are the ones who love their children the most, who care about their children the most, who understand their children the most. And parents should be the ones making these decisions.
So if a 14-year-old comes home and says, I really want to start switching genders, that's the parent's decision?
Absolutely. I tell you, it's more of a parent's decision than it is a governor's decision, for goodness sakes, Brian. You really think that Sarah Huckabee Sanders should be making this decision for children in Arkansas? I love Sarah. I think she's a great person and a really good governor. But I don't think she would ever allow the government to substitute her judgment as a mother for their judgment. And that's what I'm saying. I would want any government official coming in and telling me what decisions I can help my child through and how I should do it. And I want those decisions to be made by parents, not by the government.
All right, let's switch in.
I think that is a fantastic answer. And by the way, it would seem to me there is a conservative principle rooted in that, is there not? The idea that, keep the government out of decisions that are being made in my family. Keep the government out of decisions that I'm making with my kids. Or that I and my partner are making with our kids. That's none of the government's business. I think he gave a very smart and sophisticated answer to that, and it really puts him at odds. In addition to, of course, his willingness to take on Trump and not cower like a supplicant, like Mike Pence does. Except those rare occasions when he can actually manage to find some cojones. If I may use that term. It's Friday. So I just think that's an excellent answer. And listen, I have a lot of, again, I'm not on the Chris Christie bandwagon, but, I like the more moderate voices in the Republican Party. That's why, people ask me, why do you cling to Sununu? That's why. Because I don't hear Sununu, if you talk to Chris Sununu, he's not, the first thing out of his mouth is, well, we need to do something about these trans people. Like DeSantis seems psychotic to me, to be honest with you. I don't even really know what Trump's position is on any of that. I did think it was funny. And if you're a regular listener, I'm no fan of Trump, but I did think it was funny a couple of weeks ago when Trump said, DeSantis, he's always talking about woke. Like anybody even knows what that actually means. I don't know what that means. And it was kind of funny. But anyway, so we will end with that. Oh, David Dismukes in the chat room says, Chris Christie collapsed I-95 in Philly when he got out of his car. Oh, that's mean. That's kind of clever, but it's mean. But it's sometimes we're mean. I don't mind mean humor, but hey, he could be the. No, I'm kidding. He's not going to be the nominee. But I-95, by the way, just really quickly before we go, I can't believe what a triumph of infrastructure that is. They've already got it reopened. I don't know if it's completely reopened, but when that collapse happened and the governor said, oh, we're going to get this open in a couple of weeks, I said, no, come on. You want to under promise and over deliver, not the other way around. No, it's open. It's open. It's just incredible. Very, very impressive. All right, we got to go. We are absolutely out of time. Please don't forget, tonight I will be back for Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C from 8 to 11 p.m. tonight. Always look forward to that. Don't forget tomorrow morning, of course, from 7 to 9 a.m. You have the morning show with Peter White on Saturdays. Peter runs usually a classic episode of the morning show, or it might be something more recent, just an episode that he selects that he really likes. And then immediately after that, from 9 to 11 a.m., you have the best of Matt Connarton Unleashed. I still need to produce some new ones of those. I know I say that every day. I say that, actually. First thing I say when I wake up in the morning. I need to produce some more of those. No, I really do, though. I really do. But let's see. Tonight at the Hop Knot, they've got Big Gay Bingo. It's for a good cause. And DJ Reckless is at the Soho tonight in the main room. And if you miss any part of today's show, it will be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org and at my website, MattConnarton.com. Trudy from the Hop Knot will be here with us on Monday in studio. That's it for us for now. We are out of time, but we'll leave you with a little bit of Day to Attend. Great track from that band. And I will talk to y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody.